Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the webinar we're giving this afternoon on working safely at height. And it's all part of the Construction Safety Week. So I'd just like to spend maybe 10 or 15 minutes going over the hazards and the equipment that we use associated with working at height. But before that, I'd just like to say today's the first day of the level 5 restrictions relating to the COVID pandemic. So I'd just like to ask everybody again to keep up all their efforts in terms of social distancing, working from home or working under sort of somewhat strange circumstances, washing their hands and wearing face masks, just so we can try and bring this whole episode to the quickest possible end. So on that, we'll go into the presentation that we've prepared. So, right, okay, great. So what is working at height? Working at height is working any place, including a place at, above or below ground level where a person could be injured if they fell from that place. And not forgetting that access and egress to that place can also be working at height. So examples of work activities that are actually classified as working at height are working on mobile elevated platforms, such as boom lifts or scissor lifts, working on a fixed work platform, working on a ladder, or working near or adjacent to fragile materials that could obviously fall and break and create another level where previously one didn't exist. So falls are actually responsible for over 1,000 fatalities and 4,000 accidents across Europe every year. And in 2019, 12 people actually died as a result of accidents on Irish construction sites and 13 in the UK, with fall from heights being the leading cause of fatalities. So falls shouldn't be underestimated. I have a couple of personal experiences, not myself, but people I know who have been badly injured on what were quite, well, relatively, what it looked like relatively small falls, but actually they were very badly injured. So complacency is a constant threat, and we need to try and overcome that complacency and always be aware that working at height or making your way to working at heights do pose a risk. So obviously ladders and step ladders are tools that we use very frequently, but ladders and step ladders should only be used where the work is a very short duration and the risk will be considered low. The task is light. You can maintain 3 points of contact. That's 2 feet in one hand or 2 hands in 1 foot at any one time on the ladder. And the handhold is available, and the work does not involve actually carrying anything heavy or awkward. So just following on there on the step ladders, some do's and don'ts. So ladder rules: we should always face the ladder when ascending or descending, and always maintain, as we said, 3 points of contact. The top of the ladder should not be used as a step, and a ladder should never be moved, shifted, or extended while occupied. You would have thought that was obvious, but there have been instances where that wasn't the case. And we should never carry an object or load that would cause you to lose your balance. We shouldn't overreach. We shouldn't carry out work which causes sideways loadings. We shouldn't work on the top 3 rungs. We shouldn't straddle an A-frame, move a ladder, slide down the stiles, or extend the ladder while we're actually standing on the rungs. I suppose just from a visual point of view, we should tie near the base of the ladder. We should attempt to tie the ladder halfway. We definitely need to tie the ladder at the top. We should take a correct position on the ladder. We should support it at the base. We should avoid overreaching and avoid sideways loading. And we should never straddle both sides of the step ladder. So apart from the ladders, we also use mobile elevated working platforms, and the serious injuries that could arise from using this type of equipment are entrapment, where the operator becomes trapped between the basket and the fixed structure. There's the possibility of overturning, where the machine itself overturns and throws the operator from that. The operator might fall from the basket. We could have a collision while moving the platform, and something that can easily be forgotten about are objects falling from a height. So workers in the vicinity of the elevated plant could be hit by objects that have fallen from the elevated working platform. So when we are using the mobile platforms, we should only select the right one for the task. And of course, those mobile platforms can only be used by a certified trained operator. We should generate risk assessments and method statements for the work associated with those. And more importantly, we should develop them, but we should also follow them rigidly, the assessments and the method statements. Before we start the work, we should perform pre-operational checks. We should use the correct PPE, which in this case is personal fall arrest systems. We should assess the position and the stability of the platform, and we should never exceed the rated load. We should also check to see, of course, that any maintenance or dates for maintenance on the equipment is within date. So when we're using fall protection, there is a hierarchy, and I suppose the first step is that we should avoid it if we could, or use tools that would avoid the use of any elevated platform. The second level will be like a physical barrier where guide rails are around unprotected edges. The third is to use PPE to actually restrain the worker from getting to the point or accessing the point where the fall could occur. So after that, we would use PPE to arrest a fall should a fall occur. And then the fifth, and I suppose the least desirable, is work practices or procedures to create the worker's awareness where there isn't much of an actual intervention on the part of equipment or the workplace. So it's just increasing awareness, and that is the least desirable. So within that hierarchy of fall protection, number two we said was passive fall protection, which is the likes of guardrails or netting, and again those items are just that equipment, if you want to call it equipment, is just there to intervene and to prevent a fall, but we don't actually interact with it. The third is the fall restraint system, where you can see sort of a visual of it there, where there's an anchor point and there's a fixed length lanyard which will prevent the worker from accessing the point where the fall could occur. And number four then obviously is the fall arrest systems. And I suppose the fall arrest systems are just to break the effect of the fall. The fall could occur, but this is to stop the fall before you hit the surface, and that consists of 3 points. One is the anchor point, one is the harness on the worker, and three is the connection, which is usually a shock absorbing lanyard. And the anchor point obviously would need to be very well assessed so that it could take the forces that could come into play if the fall occurred. The use of the fall protection or the fall arrest system doesn't in itself eliminate all the risks. There is a risk of injury using the fall protection, and that is if you're suspended, if the fall occurs and the staff member is suspended using the harness, there are pressures being exerted on the body from the harness, which could result in the oxygen deprivation in the brain, the drop in the amount of blood returning to the heart, the femoral veins can be compressed, and that causes blood to pool in the victim's legs. So as part of the whole risk assessment and the method statement, there would have to be a method or a system of recovering the person after the fall has occurred so that they don't be suspended in that position for too long a period. The lanyards, or the lanyards that we spoke of, you need to use the correct one with considering the maximum weight and length of the lanyard, and we should always use locking screw, gate, carabiners, and ensure that both ends are locked. And if unsure, you should consult your safety officer for the correct use or for the correct lanyard. We made reference to it previously, but falling objects is a serious risk when working at height. And so it's not so much about the platform itself or the person operating it, but objects falling from that. And that does pose a significant risk. So we should store as much as we can at ground level. We should ensure materials and work tools are secure, and any materials that we need to bring with us are stored well back from the edges. So we should always remember that, I suppose, the principal goal is to avoiding working at height wherever possible, and where we must, we have to work at height, and the work must be planned, supervised, and safe. We need to prepare a written risk assessment and follow that risk assessment and the planned method of work. We should also use equipment that protects the largest number of people, and should never forget that work platforms must have top and intermediate handrails and toe boards. We should always protect all the edges and the openings where a fall could occur. We should inspect the equipment used for any maintenance requirements or dates that the work or the materials have to be checked within. And we obviously need to train the users of the fall arrest equipment, and we should have rescue and emergency plans in place for the reasons we spoke about earlier. So in summary, you know, we should always look to see whether we should avoid the working at height, and if not, then we have to plan the work and have adequate access, egress, edge protection, adequate plant PPE and suitable training. Any of the work at height always requires guardrails, intermediate guard and toe boards, fitted or another appropriate control. And where impractical to fit those, then personal suspension equipment and the fall arrest equipment must be utilized as required. So we're just going to look through a short video now.
Not taking the right precautions when working at height could put you, your colleagues, subcontractors, site visitors or the general public at risk. Accidents can happen due to falling from a height, falling objects or equipment collapsing. Evaluate the work to be done. Can it be done from the ground? If you must work at height, then identify potential hazards and prepare yourself. So wear your safety helmet, footwear, gloves and most importantly your harness. Use approved and certified equipment only. Consider the weather conditions and the impact this may have on working safely at height. If debris is likely to be falling, then chutes, fans or full enclosures should be used. All work at height should be supervised and carried out by a competent person. Don't think you're simply using a ladder. Make sure someone is securing it at the base. No matter where you work in EPS, remember, think safe, work safe, be safe. And when it comes to working at height, it's not the falling that hurts, it's the landing.
Okay. So that's it really for today. Hopefully some things will have been brought back to mind, and if you require any additional information regarding any of the information provided here or information that you feel hasn't been provided, can you please contact your line manager or the HSQE department. And of course, safety issues can always be discussed with the safety champion for your division or a member of the safety committee, which is chaired by Sharon, who's based in Mallow. So thank you very much, and that's it really. Thank you.